Hey Shakers, and welcome to Worth Your Salt, the podcast that shakes up your marketing game in the health and wellness industry. Worth Your Salt is brought to you by Salt Marketing. Salt Marketing helps health and wellness practitioners build trust and authority to attract a steady stream of inbound wellness seekers. For more information, you can visit us online at saltmarketing.co. I'm Jennifer Oraquah, Story Brand Certified Guide, Marketing Strategist with Salt Marketing, and your host for today's episode of Worth Your Salt. Now, if you've ever looked at the way your practice works and been proud of the ideas and the systems and processes you've built, you're going to want to pay attention to today's episode. Developing and implementing a plan for standardized care is a major undertaking requiring advanced planning, time, and the support and participation of your staff. So my guest today is Dr. Don Carlock of Balance Chiropractic in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Dr. Carlock is building a community of like-minded chiropractors through his BPR method of certification, licensing, training, and coaching. His vision is for this community to lift each other up, turn competitors into referral sources, and make practicing fun, exciting, and profitable while maintaining a healthy balance between business and family life. How Dr. Carlock is developing his national chiropractic brand that consumers can associate with whole body chiropractic is a fascinating story and one we can all learn from. Welcome, Dr. Carlock. I'm so excited to explore the BPR method with you.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for having me.
So I know you must have a journey that brought you to where you are today, helping people through chiropractic. Tell me a little bit about the path that led you here.
You're right. Everyone has a journey. From my professional perspective, it all started back when I was in undergrad at Florida State. I was a triathlete and I hurt my back and eventually found chiropractic. I mean, it wasn't something that I turned to immediately, but through the failures of conventional medical approaches, it was a godsend and it changed my life forever. And I went from being a pre-law student to pre-med and then to chiropractic school over the summer before I graduated. The rest is history.
And so you practiced for a number of years as you developed your BPR method. Tell me a little bit about that. How did the BPR method evolve? How did it come to be?
I've been in the profession for almost 30 years now. It's been kind of an organic process. I've always focused on clinical excellence and finding ways in which I could deliver my services to my patients more rapidly, giving them better outcomes. And during that time frame, I just evolved and added multiple therapeutic approaches that seemed to help my patients. And that's really, it was born way back when, but I didn't really create a label or a brand around it until I kind of relaunched and simplified my practice approach.
So let's dig into this a little bit more. What really is the BPR method? How can you share some insights into your development process and how you kind of tested that and refined it as you went along?
Sure. I mean, the BPR method is an acronym for Balanced Pain Relief Method. Essentially, my clinical approach looks at the whole body as a closed system. We start with the feet in reference to the biomechanics, much like the foundation of a building, right? In order for a structure to be sound, the foundation has to be, absolutely sound. So we start there. And 9 times out of 10, most people are struggling with problems in the neuromusculoskeletal arena that stem from their foot biomechanics. And so that's kind of been the linchpin of the whole clinical approach, is that we start with the feet and everything else kind of stems from there in reference to treatment approach and clinical outcomes.
Interesting. So how does patient analysis differ when you apply the BPR method?
Well, it's definitely not your traditional chiropractic experience. Obviously patients come in, we do a history and evaluation and screen them to see if they're a good candidate for the BPR method. But once we do a functional evaluation and exam that includes a lot of movement pattern assessments, we use a computerized gait scan analysis to look at their foot biomechanics, and then we correlate that with our exam findings. And then based on that information, we're able to come up with a treatment plan to rapidly get them out of pain and then focus primarily on human performance. And to date, we have over 60 conditions that we treat that include not only the spine, but conditions outside of the spine that you would normally not see treated in a chiropractic setting.
Interesting. So what about treatment? What's different about the BPR method when it comes to treatment?
It's multi-therapeutic. When I say that, right, it can be everything from class 4 laser to instrument-assisted soft tissue manipulation using rock blades, which is a soft tissue manipulation, PNF stretching. Obviously, manipulation and adjustment is being a chiropractor, that's a foundation of it as well. And then obviously the prescription foot orthotics that are designed specifically for each patient and getting them back to as much as biomechanically perfect that we can get them. And as a result of that, we remove these stress points that have accumulated over time. And as a result of that, you see patients go from being in pain constantly to eventually feeling fantastic and getting back to full activity in a very short period of time.
Yeah. So let's talk about those results. Can you share any success stories or kind of testimonials from patients who have experienced really positive outcomes through the BPR method?
I alluded earlier about simplifying my clinical approach. I mean, we went from a medically integrated practice of 25 staff to now just my wife and I. And I wanted to create a kind of a concierge type practice that's all that's cash based with no staff. So it's a very intimate and one-on-one experience for the patient.
So let's talk about the results that you get a little bit. Do you have any good success stories or testimonials from patients? What kind of results have you seen?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we have 5-star ratings across the board. I purposely, when I opened this clinic in Gulf Breeze, probably about, I'd say a year into this practice, we pulled about 100 case files. And what we came out of that was a 90% participation rate. So 9 out of 10 patients that came to see me, completed corrective care from beginning to end. And we used that information to determine the efficacy. And we came up with a number of 99.7%. So that's pretty good. And on top of that, we had 100% patient satisfaction, even with the few patients that didn't get 100% resolution of their condition and problem.
Fascinating. I can certainly see how it became clear to you that the BPR method really might help other chiropractors succeed. But I do have to take a quick sponsorship break right now. When we return, I want to talk more specifically about what it takes to develop a national brand. Stay with us. Do you feel that you should be more successful with your health and wellness business by now, helping more people and making more money with greater ease than you are today? If you're frustrated about how difficult it can be to get prospective clients to understand the value of what you do, I agree. I'm Jennifer Oraquah, marketing strategist for Salt Marketing, and the good news is that it can be that easy. You can attract more people who will benefit from what you do, and you can change more lives. You can stop feeling like you have to do 1,000 marketing tasks all day, every day, and instead implement marketing strategy that will magnetically attract the exact type of client you want. Right now, I want to give you a strategic marketing plan with 5 easy-to-implement action steps. This plan will help you stop doing all those random acts of marketing, and together we'll uncover hidden opportunities for you to serve more people and support your business. Head to saltmarketing.co/workshop to grab the Wellness Pro workshop. You'll get 5 days of video content and robust action plans. If you aren't bringing in a steady stream of new clients every day, let's change that. Don't waste another minute. Grab the free Wellness Pro workshop now to see the difference you can make in just 1 week. Get it at saltmarketing.co/workshop. I'm back here on the Worth Your Salt podcast with Dr. Don Carlock, owner of Balance Chiropractic and the visionary behind the BPR method. So, Don, what made you want to develop a system and a process for delivering care that you could actually share with others?
It was my patients that really made me stop and take a look closely at what I was doing that was so popular. When patients were calling my wife, they couldn't find anybody that practiced like I did. So it made me step back and take a look at that. And once we came up with those numbers, and that's what prompted me to do the percentage or efficacy concept, is that, Ann and I sat down and said, we got to share this, right? I mean, we got to share this with other chiropractors. I think probably the most frustrating thing is seeing patients. We live in the Panhandle, so we have a lot of patients that retire here, move here. And, I'm constantly getting patients coming in who had been under previous chiropractic care, but going back for the same problem, whether it be back pain, neck pain, hip pain, whatever. And most of those patients would come in and say, yeah, I've been under wellness care for 15, 20 years. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you haven't been under care. You've been under Band-Aid treatment care. So it just made me think about how can we provide this to the profession and also create a unique selling point from a business perspective for chiropractors that are out there that want to be a part of this. It's not for everyone, right? In reference to chiropractic. So it's gonna appeal to the sports medicine, functional based, research based chiropractor that wants to provide excellent clinical outcomes and separate themselves from the crowd in reference to their marketplace. And then create this kind of network of doctors throughout the US and eventually globally that shares in this vision of kind of redefining whole body chiropractic.
So I noticed that you have a number of corporate partners. How did that network come to be? Did you cultivate it intentionally, or was it just a matter of practice?
Well, I think we were discussing earlier about the development of the BPR method. It's been an organic process over the course of my entire career. Even though I've used orthotics since 1994 in my treatment protocols, it wasn't until we transitioned with our relationship with the orthotic group it really changed the way in which I was able to improve my patient outcomes. And the orthotic group, they provide the computerized gait scan that we use for dynamic analysis. So patients actually walk over a pressure plate, and that gives us about 1 million points of data to go from to develop a prescription orthotic. That becomes a staple within their treatment protocol. Along with the orthotic group, we transitioned later on, I think it was in 2004, that I scrapped all your traditional physiotherapies like ultrasound and electrical muscle stimulation, and we went with a class 4 laser. So Light Force Laser became a corporate partner back in 2004, and it just raised the bar again in reference to my clinical outcomes. And they've been a fantastic partner. Another great partner is our HyperIce company. We utilize the HyperVolt 2 Pro as well as their compression shoulder sleeves for conditions like frozen shoulder syndrome, where we can use contrast, heat, and cold. That helps me deal with chronic muscular issues. Another great flagship company is Rock Tape, along with Trigger Point. We rely a lot on home care for patients. We don't do a lot of active rehab in office. We kind of go old school and give them a lot of low-tech stuff they can do at home to manage their condition and problem. And last but not least is our relationship with Hill Laboratories, which is our chiropractic table company. I've been with them since I've been in practice for nearly 30 years. Matter of fact, the table we use today, we just refurbished about a year ago, and it's still going strong, like it just came off the assembly line. So, and the thing is about, this process of aligning with corporate partners is finding the best of the best. And that's what I'm excited about and offering to our future doctors. I mean, this process of our treatment protocols ensures that they're able to provide treatment efficiently and effectively and consistently. Everybody that we deal with in reference to our corporate side are excited about getting this started.
So let's talk a little bit about that, about your vision for basically this national chiropractic brand, a network of BPR practitioners.
Yeah. So, there's a trend here, lately in my profession, there's franchises cropping up. It's a big profession. There's a lot of chiropractors and there's something for everyone. But I didn't want to go that route in reference to franchising because it removes that factor of autonomy for the chiropractor. It also layers on a bunch of expenses that aren't really necessary in order to have a brand affiliation that's centralized and gives them that unique selling point for their clinic. I noticed, and you're in this arena in reference to digital marketing, is that, when I started practice, no one had a website. Right?
Yep.
Now it's a whole different arena. I mean, you've got to, and there's some pretty aggressive chiropractors that, are on TikTok and YouTube. That's just not for me.
Yeah.
I want a different kind of presence in my community. And I want that reputation and that level of trust and understanding from the consumer to pass on to other chiropractors.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And even talking about that differentiation in the marketplace and making sure that you stand alone. Even so, I see where standardization of care is a really important element of your vision for this. So tell me a little bit about that.
I said earlier about the 60 conditions. I mean, that's what we're up to right now. And that's just based on my clinical acumen. I mean, there's going to be doctors that we may bring in the group that have success in other conditions and problems that I haven't, been exposed to yet. That's the cool thing about this journey or process. But at the end of the day, it's about creating this community of like-minded chiropractors that can work towards a common goal of making it a national brand. I can't do it by myself, right? I eventually love to see the BPR method being advertised Super Bowl weekend. How awesome would that be, right? The problem with, our colleges, and it seems to be that the messaging is fragmented. And like I said, chiropractors are struggling. Just like any business, you've got to have some centralized effort in reference to marketing and this concept of unique selling. That's a term that I learned during this process, figuring out how I was going to try to develop this.
Yeah, and that fragmented messaging is definitely something that I think many new chiropractors struggle with in the marketplace. How do I put myself out there? How do I take this to market? How do I distinguish myself and yet show that I adhere to the standard of care? So I love that part of your vision. All right, John, it's time for another quick break. We're going to be right back after this. You're listening to the Worth Your Salt podcast, and today I'm talking with Dr. Don Carlock of Balance Chiropractic about how you can develop a bigger vision for your unique systems and processes. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so be sure to join Salt Marketing over on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and let us know how you're systematizing and growing your business. So, Don, I know you're inviting licensed chiropractors who are looking to grow to become exclusive BPR Method providers in their market. So tell me a little bit about that process and how that works.
We've done some soft launching. I haven't done really a hard launch as of to date. But what we're looking to do is create a founding group of chiropractors. The first 25 will sort of have an insight into developing the process of expanding it nationwide. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're starting off, getting our founding members on board, and then going from there and growing it organically.
And so the co-branding journey for BPR, it's kind of broken out into 4 stages. So how does that work?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, the co-branding concept is completely out of the box, right? You don't see that anywhere in chiropractic. You either are part of a franchise or you have your own clinic name. But the idea of hitching your clinic name with another brand is relatively new. Mm-hmm. But what it does is instantly set you apart from everybody else. But the 4 stages in reference to coming on board is a pre-discovery. That's the first stage. You have to be interested. You submit an application to us. We review it. We ensure that obviously you're licensed and in good standing. And then the next step is to invite you to a discovery day call, in which we discuss the process and how interested you are and whether or not, you align with what our vision is in reference to the BPR method. If everything goes well, then it goes to stage 3 where we're actually on board. Contracts are signed and the training begins. We ensure that obviously all of our corporate partners are tied in with the doctor and his clinic and get him trained in all that area. Mm-hmm. And the 4th is obviously launching their clinic with the BPR method. So a lot of it's just, once again, it goes back to the branding concept. And we've streamlined it to where it's super easy for them to do this. And once again, looking at it from a cost perspective, we've kind of floated out to where it makes it extremely cost effective for them to do this, provided, once again, they're focused on improving their clinical outcomes. That's really the whole basis of this. And that's what drives every metric of clinical success. Is how good are you? Mm-hmm. How effective are you at delivering your services to your patients? The more successful that you are in that arena, you don't have to spend a lot of money on advertising. You quickly are number 1 on Google search for your SEO or whatever.
And so we've talked a lot about the clinical aspect of it and making sure that the success is there. Are there any business or administrative strategies that you're recommending for BPR method providers to make sure that they're successful within the network?
I think it goes back to, once again, like we were talking earlier about the clinical perspective, the standardization of care. Well, there's standards that we've set in reference to our clinic approach from, day 1, day 2 procedures. I mean, so it's very structured. Mm-hmm. Every provider will come into the process at different levels, whether they're just out of school or they've been practicing for years, right? They first have to be open to submitting themselves and being open to change. But like I said, it goes back to this idea that we want to create a certain level of autonomy. So if you have a clinic and you have a very successful weight loss program, well, you don't want to ditch that. Mm-hmm. You still can be a BPR method provider and continue that program within your clinic. Mm-hmm. When you franchise, you have to scrap everything that you've ever worked on. Right. And you're outlaying anywhere from $300,000 to $750,000 just to be a part of a franchise. You almost become an employee of somebody else. And that's what I'm not looking to achieve with this. We want doctors to be able to be independent, but yet be a part of something that is consistently delivering excellent clinical outcomes and redefining what chiropractic is in their community in reference to whole body chiropractic.
Yeah, what's really interesting to me is, you're providing all this information, you're giving them sort of a framework to work under, but you're also really open to their ideas. So I'm wondering if you have ongoing research or development initiatives that are related to the BPR method, other than the 60 conditions that you already have. What does ongoing research look like?
Every new patient that comes to our clinic is a potential case study. So I gather those and I actually lecture and present those usually 1 or 2 times a year. And case studies are pretty powerful because they're actual patients who get the results and you put a name with a face It isn't like, standard medical research where there's no name with a, you know what I mean? It's face.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So what I found is that the most popular aspect of my lecture process is sharing the case studies, where you can take somebody with plantar fasciitis who comes in at a 10 out of 10 pain level. In one visit, they walk out pain-free. I mean, if I told you that as a practitioner and you've been dealing with plantar fasciitis in your clinic as a chiropractor, it's almost unbelievable. You'd be like, how did you do that? Right. So patients, in compliance with HIPAA and all that jazz, they agree to be a part of our case studies and be able to present those. But if you think about what impact that would have on the profession as a whole, when you have hundreds, if not thousands of chiropractors following the same standardization of care, presenting that on a scale that's powerful.
Absolutely.
Now, oftentimes research doesn't align with what's happening in the real world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you kind of alluded to this when you talked about, having Super Bowl ads, but what are your long-term goals for the BPR method? What's going to be its impact on this field?
Oh, gosh. I've treated probably to date a little over 25,000 patients, close to 13.5 million adjustments, but I'm only one person. I can only see so many people in my lifetime. What I would love to see is that this continue beyond me. It's a legacy, a concept to where we reach millions of people with the BPR method through chiropractic. So that's the big vision, right?
Right, for sure. And so how can other chiropractors, professionals who are interested in your vision get involved? How can they learn more about the BPR method?
Well, I think we start with a website, right? BPRmethodchiropractor.com. They just go to my website. It's all there. There's videos that I discuss some of these concepts. It can be a bit, like I said, it's outside the box. So a lot of the questions I get is, co-branding. How does that work? Well, so we kind of rewrapped it, said, look, we'll make it a certification, right, of sorts. The licensing comes with it. Co-branding is part of it. The training, it's all kind of a turnkey process. The first step is go to BPRmethodchiropractor.com and they can get the process started. They can even set up a discovery call with me personally, and we just kind of go from there.
Excellent. And of course, everything that Don has mentioned, links will be available on our website at saltmarketing.co. But right now, Don, it is time for our lightning round questions. These are a few quick questions that I like to ask of every guest. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question is, what's something about you that surprises people?
Oh, that I'm funny.
That's a good one.
That's from my son. He says, I think you're too serious. So, yeah.
Very good. I'm sure that helps with patients as well. Next question. What is your favorite thing about your work that you do?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I get to go on this journey every time I see a new patient. It's an opportunity to change their life. And I get to do it without any drugs. There's no surgery. It's all natural. And there's a natural high to that, right? And you get to see them go through this transformation process that's pretty powerful.
Excellent. All right, next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Be on time.
I agree with that 100%. All right, last question. Who or what inspires you?
I would say my son and my family. You asked me earlier about why am I doing all this? To create an environment for my family to prosper and be a part of something that you can't do by yourself.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Carlock, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of Worth Your Salt.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me.
I also want to thank our listeners and let you know that if you're ready for your Worth Your Salt debut, tell us about your expertise by emailing us at grow@saltmarketing.co. Of course, be sure to subscribe on our website so you never miss an episode. Finally, leave us a review or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's all for this episode of Worth Your Salt. Be sure to join me again next time. In the meantime, let's get out there and shake things up.